Hi, welcome to Overbox Guitar Tuition. So I've got a double classic album inspection today because it's March the 31st, 1987. I've done Whitesnake 1987, but on March 31st, 1992, this album I'm going to look at was released and it's Time to Burn by Giant. This is a sophomore released by the AOR Hard Rockers. Giant, just moving my camera. I think it's quite interesting doing two albums in one day because in the space of 5 years you see how the fortunes can change. This album also has great vocals, great production, great songs, and fantastic guitar playing. But it came out in an era where the sounds had shifted. Although critically well received, it didn't do well, and that was not only the end of a band like Giant, but really the end of all those bands. You'll find all these bands on Frontiers now, but it's records, but it's purely a niche thing. They're not selling big numbers. Not that Giant did sell big numbers, but it's not that kind of market. But there was a time when this type of rock was very popular. It shifted big numbers, got radio play, and was very much part of the mainstream. So Giant consisted of Dan Huff, David Huff brothers, Alan Paskin, Mike Brigadello on drums, I think. So Dan Huff's basically, to contextualise Dan Huff, he's the guy who replaced Steve Lukather on the session scene. So when Steve Lukather decided not to do sessions anymore, was pulling out of sessions, the rock guy, the guy who started taking his gigs, or people started booking, was Dan Huff. He's a phenomenal guitar player, phenomenal singer, songwriter, and now producer based in Nashville. And if you've not heard his guitar playing, I'll try and encourage you to check this out. So this album's sounds super posh. First port of call, these guys are all session guys. So they know what they're doing and know how to nail performance and get tones in the studio. But I was recorded at 5 studios, like Kiva Studios, Memphis, Omni Sound, Dugout and Javelin Studios, Nashville, which will come to a unique recording in New York City. I remember reading an interview with Dan Huff, and he said he was recording a 72-track machine by producer Terry Thomas. And Terry Thomas did quite a few things, but it's this one that stands out for me. But he's in a band called Charlie, a British band. He's a British producer, but he must have moved to America. So I haven't heard much of his stuff, but this record sounds fantastic. Of its time, but done really well. So this is in the era where they're spending a lot of money still on recording it. So the problem for a band is, with videos being expensive, they end up in the hole to a record company. If you don't, it's not enough to sell a few 100,000 copies. You need to break platinum or more for the record company to recoup its investment. And if you do not do that, sooner rather than later, you'll be dropped. And by this point, for a band like Giant, the industry, MTV was playing 1992's obviously the real peak years of grunge, 92, 93, 94, and a band like this wouldn't get a look in. Whereas they'd had a minor hit with I'm a Believer. They'd had a minor hit with I'm a Believer, and quite a reasonable sized hit with I See You in My Dreams off their first album, which is a top power ballad. But anyway, I've sort of waffled enough about that. Criticism of this album is 12 tracks. One of them's a short instrumental, is 58 minutes long. I think the tracks are too long. If the instrumental's only 30 seconds, the average length of the tracks on this are over 5 minutes. And I think that's an issue there. If you want to get more radio dynamic tracks, you don't want to be editing them. You need to be writing tracks no more than 4 minutes for some things. But it opens with Thunder and Lightning, 4 minutes 23. This is a great rocker. You can hear the quality of Dan Huff's tone on this. He's basically chicken picking, using his first finger, second finger, his thumb on his B and G. I think he's got a really cool riff. And when it comes in, what you're aware of is there's not a massive amount of gain on the guitars, but it's got loads of punch. The drums are really tight. He's got a big snare. It's a cool sound. And there's lots of clarity and separation on this. It kind of reminds me of what Def Leppard should sound like. If they had a proper drum sound at this time, it's that kind of thing where, it's really produced, but it still feels kind of real and natural. This great solo by Dan Huff. He's playing on this is great. Next track's Change. So this has got a really cool acoustic intro. The track's too long. It's 7:19. I don't think a track like this should ever be that long. But it's really good. Again, great guitar work. Dan Huff is kind of pitch perfect with his singing. I mean, what's his singing like? I mean, he's got a more ballsy voice for AOR. He's more like Jack Blades. A cross between Jack Blades and Kelly Keegy and Night Ranger, but with higher register, so he can hit higher notes. But he's not got that kind of high lilt like Jimmy Jameson or Steve Perry's got. So it puts him in like a good sort of place. I think if you had to sort of not criticism his voice, it doesn't have a sort of totally unique quality. You know, I would recognise Dan Huff, but he hasn't got that thing. Oh, it's that guy, but it's, you know, he's as good a singer as he is guitar player, which is really annoying because he's a fucking awesome guitar player. Then you got Lay It on the Line. This is 522. Again, it's a really good track, really catchy. BV's drums solo, they're all great. Then sort of the minor hit off the album, which did get airplay, is Stay. So this time, you know, a band like this could still get a hit. I think, like I sort of mentioned before, probably somewhere about Firehouse, you know, still having a kind of reasonable hit album in 1992 with their Hold Your Fire album. And that's an example of like a, you know, a hair type AOR type album still doing all right, even though flannel shirts are starting to appear. But, you know, this wasn't enough to kind of lift this album. But this is a great track. Really, really classy AOR rocker. You know, the thing with this, there's always plenty of guitar on this album. It's not, you know, it's not cutting the guitar down. It's heavier than Last of the Runaways. It's a better album for it. Fantastic guitar solo by Dan on this. He uses brilliant whammy slurring. And he does great sort of reverse glissando, like the sort of thing Vi does, but puts his own spin on it, like, and it's like his tone's super tasty. He's probably got a Bradshaw rack probably for his sessions at this point. The Bradshaw rack is like a separate rack system, and that was still probably popular this time. He's probably got some like a Valley Arts guitar. You know, it's like super posh, expensive high-end gear that will record and perform and have perfect intonation and so on. Then you got Lost in Paradise. This is a big sort of power ballad. It's good, cheesy lyric, but lovely guitar solo. Then I'm not sure. I'm guessing that was the end of the original side one of the vinyl. My brother had this on vinyl, and I think that's right. It would make sense because side two albums was Smolder, which is a little bit of wiggly guitar intro, and then it goes into Track Time to Burn. This is really catchy. It's the title track. So it's a bit like Thunder and Lightning in terms of the opening track of side one, in terms of its tempo, and it's kind of a big rock out chorus with amazing solo. Next one's I'll Be There. This filler cut. This one's kind of like the cheesy, we need a hit AOR hit single. I'm not into this. But then probably my favourite track on the album. Again, a little too long, 6 minutes, but Save Me Tonight. Great thing about this track, amidst all the melody, it's got a really chunky E riff, you know, E, C, D type thing on the chorus. Really great kind of verse breaks down with some really kind of, you know, funky sort of bass. Guitar, sorry. Dan's vocals are great. Really nice keyboards. He's using nice sort of Hammond organ sound on this. The keyboard player, I forget the name. It's Alan Pasco. I think it's Alan Pasco on keyboards. Apologies. Light's got a lovely solo, and the outro solo on this is fantastic. I mean, he really lets rip with his chops here. Using his old fast alternate picking, string skimming, turning, tapping. So he does all. Dan Huff does all. The fireworks of the day, but imagine that combined with the sort of polish and refinement of a Steve Lukather or, you know, Larry Carlin, one of those great LA session guys. That's the best way to describe, you know, it. Then you got Without You. Again, this is another sort of slightly drippy AOR, or We Need a Hit, 426. So this is another weak one. There's another ballad, Now Until Forever, which it's good, probably a bit on the light side for me, and then it finishes To Get Used to It, which is kind of catchy, really good hook on the chorus on this. So I'd say aside from 3 tracks, the other, 9 tracks of one sort of tracks, or 8 proper vocal tracks are really good. I mean, I'd say this album's like, you know, it's 7.5 out of 10. Some people will give it more, but that's not because, you know, it's just those few tracks for me that aren't as top, but. Yeah, it's kind of an album that shows the end of an era, really. There's no way an album would get made with this budget the next year, like, or the year after, certainly the year after that. Highly unlikely, you know, with the kind of tools at the disposal. I mean, what was beauty about grunge was it was cheaper. The videos were kind of dressed down. You know, you didn't have to get bloody flash lighting and makeup, so that saved the record company's money. And, you know, the bands didn't have big stage sets. or when they started headlining, so the costs were just much lower. I think people, with the hair AOR era, really going from 83 till the end of 80s, the overheads to running that were vast with the videos, let's say, the stage sets, the costumes and everything. And once the industry, when MTV went, right, we're not playing that anymore, and went with grunge, Seattle and alt rock, that's just much cheaper to do. The problem they inherited, though, was the lifestyles of musicians. So the lifestyles of musicians in the 80s were hedonistic, but people, that caused bother, but they survived. The problem was, people in the 90s, the musicians had, grade A, drug habits, and, it killed people, and then you didn't have the band. So it was a kind of short-lived thing, really. But, record industry will always find a way to survive and find the next thing and make money, even with what's happened with, when people were legal downloading, they bought shares in Spotify and basically created that, and they managed to monetize themselves again. Anyway, I've waffled about stuff like that. So yeah, check this out, Time to Move by Giant, and the previous album, The Last of the Runaways. It's got some really cool stuff on it, like I say, great musicians. If you like, a bit of AOR, kind of more American hard rock. Cheers, thanks very much.